Nancy Pelosi continues her commentary on some of the freshman Democrats. This time she's at the London School of Economics, and let's hear what she has to say.
When we won this election, it wasn't in districts like mine or Alexandria's. However, she's a wonderful member of Congress. I think all of our colleagues will attest. But those are districts that are solidly Democratic. This glass of water would win with a D next to its name in those districts. And not to diminish the exuberance and the personality and the rest of Alexandria and the other members. But when I said three, that we're talking about three that were getting a good deal of press on it. But the 43 districts, we won 43, net gain of 40, were right down the middle, mainstream, hold the center victories.
So she keeps pushing this narrative that the Democratic Party is better served if it is a centrist party as opposed to a progressive party. And so we all know AOC represents progressivism, and there's been a little bit of tension between the old guard and some of the freshman Democrats, including AOC. But true, AOC easily won against a Republican once she beat a Democrat in the primary. Right. She beat Joe Crowley, who was a Democrat. It was a stunning upset. He was a 10-term Democrat. And so it's not just about, it was an easy district for Democrats. It was about what Democrats preferred. Did they prefer the, middle of the road Democratic candidate or incumbent, or did they prefer someone who's far more progressive? And they went for the progressive.
Okay, I'm gonna take the side here that is not gonna be popular at all.
Awesome, that's good.
What Nancy Pelosi said is true. If in a solidly Democratic thing, and she didn't knock AOC on this. She didn't. She specifically said, they're good congressmen and congresspeople, and not to diminish the exuberance and personality, et cetera. She's right. She's right. Any Democrat could win there. Just like if you're in West Texas, any Republican's gonna win. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what they say, they're gonna win. This is where, to me, the Democratic Party, this is how you're gonna lose in 2020. This type of infighting. Just like you were talking about earlier about all these anti-Trump people who once he got elected, got on board. The Democrats need to come together, get elected, then worry about push between center and left, et cetera. You have to come together. AOC is fantastic. What they need to do is find out who AOC likes for president and use that to get people who didn't vote, young people, progressives, et cetera, who didn't vote, get them on board. But to create a fight, and that's what this is doing, create a fight between Pelosi and AOC, there's no fight there. There's a squabble, whatever. That doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Right now, I call the Democratic primary, this is the reality show phase, right? This is when anybody can run. I can run. Right. It's gonna be 50 candidates, and but next year when it gets real, then the Democrats are gonna have to come together and remember to keep your eye on the prize. The prize is the White House. The prize isn't progressive Democrat versus centrist Democrat. Worry about that later, get in. And this is something that the Republicans do so much better than the Democrats. When Trump became their candidate, even the ones who hated Trump, Ted Cruz, okay, and nobody was more angry and more disrespected, et cetera, by Trump than Ted Cruz. And Ted Cruz got on board because they're like, we gotta get in power, we gotta get the White House. Right.
Well, and Ted Cruz, I think it was also self-serving in that he wanted Trump to campaign for him in Texas.
Yeah,
and he was looking at a race that he could have easily lost against Beto O'Rourke.
Also, these people don't disagree fundamentally. The things that unites Trump's base, whether you like everything that comes out of his mouth, there are a lot of things that Trump believes in and stuff that he says that Ted Cruz loves. Like Ted Cruz would be one of his followers if he weren't also a politician.
And I would say the same for Pelosi and AOC.
I think they disagree fundamentally.
Yeah,
I think that's what she's saying.
I don't think they're fundamentally different. And in the story, it talks about, now she says, a lot of things you're fighting for were fights that I made 20 years ago, okay? Pelosi's been beat down by the system. Now let me tell you, I think one of the big problems we have in our government are no term limits, right? So we get these people who've been in Washington, D.C. for 20, 30 years who lose touch, and Pelosi's been there too long. But she does talk about that she agreed with a lot of these points, 20 years ago, right? Because you walk in wide-eyed and then you get beaten down and you get the money. And both of those corrupt you. So is Pelosi corrupted? Yes, but it's about the party. It's about get the party in and then fight it out. That's what I say.
So just a few things. I do disagree with you, but look, I think after the primary, I do think it's important to rally in support of the Democrat because we need to get Trump out, period, right? But in the primaries, I think it is important to take it seriously and listen to who cares about labels, right? So get rid of the labels and just poll Democrats on policy and what they like. There is a reason why someone like Bernie Sanders, who was considered like an extremist, like too far left, all that. There's a reason why right now he's the front runner. And the reason why he's the front runner is because his policies did resonate with the American people in general, but certainly did resonate with the Democratic Party. He actually moved the party to the left because now all of a sudden you have people who certainly were not progressives, and I would argue still aren't progressives, claiming that they are, right? Claiming that they're in favor of Medicare for all, claiming that they're in favor of all these, increasing taxes on the wealthy, getting money out of politics, refusing to take corporate PAC money. All of these things were, far left policies that the party has now adopted because it's resonating with the voters. And in regard to AOC, look, I get her argument about how that district is Democratic and a Democrat was gonna win no matter what. But my argument is it's not about the general election, it's about her primarying a centrist Democrat in that district and winning against a centrist Democrat in that district, which indicates that district wanted someone who was more progressive.
She did great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't support AOC. I love AOC, okay? If you saw my act, you'd know how much I love AOC. But what I'm saying is that this fight right here, this story right here, to me is a non-story. When Nancy Pelosi says that in a solidly Democratic district like AOC's or hers, that a glass of water with a D would win, that's true. And she's not saying that to slight AOC. She's saying that we need to get the districts that are not, like, in other words, this is a given, but we need to work on the ones that aren't a given. We need to bring in those districts. We need to get those voters. That's what I think she's saying, and that's why I think this fight is unnecessary.
Yeah, I think that's fair. One other thing that I'll add, I think some people, myself included, just to put my bias out there, I guess, is people are now very sensitive to things that Pelosi says following her interview on 60 Minutes with Leslie Stahl, because she was very dismissive of the freshman Democrats in that interview. Leslie Stahl asked about the freshman Democrats and the progressive wing of the party, and Pelosi's response was, yeah, it's like 5 people, like just minimizing it. But it's not just 5 people, and Leslie Stahl actually pushed back on that. And so, the entirety of that interview was full of, and I hate using this phrase, but microaggressions. And it was clear that she's just kind of pushing back against this notion that there are progressive voters, that there is a significant progressive wing of the party, and it feels like she's resistant to adapting to it. And I think that's where the frustration comes from.
Listen, I agree with you that this type of infighting doesn't need to happen, but I think the person who needs to internalize that message is the person saying this stuff out loud. Because it was a little shady. Like, she's a wonderful member of Congress. Okay, of course she is. She got there. Like, it's like, it just reminded me of like when cheaters on talk shows say they love you before they say I slept with your sister. Like, they're like, they don't love you. You know what I mean? Like, it's like when Meghan McCain told Stacey Abrams, I respect you. She's 1,000 times smarter than you. But it's like, but I respect you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why I disagree. Like, you know what I mean? That's what it felt like. And I think that's what's her intent. I also think that she's minimizing, like saying, a glass of water could have won. That does minimize what was a big win. And what happened there had nothing really to do with a Democrat beating a Republican. It was a far left Democrat beating the type of Democrat that Pelosi is.
Excuse me, but she's not talking about that fight. She's specifically talking about the general election when she became a congresswoman. Look, I support AOC. I love AOC. When these people challenge AOC, I said it before, I say it again. They think they're challenging a freshman in Congress. Like, you're challenging a Puerto Rican bartender from the Bronx. You better be ready. This woman got game, and she's not going to be hurt by some little Nancy Pelosi's shade comment.
She hasn't been. Yeah.
She's stronger than that.
It just doesn't make it less inappropriate, though.
Yeah, I think, look,
well,
I just think that if you want unity in the party, which I do think is important, then everyone needs to be on board for it. And I don't see AOC going around, minimizing Nancy Pelosi in interviews. I've seen Nancy Pelosi do it now several times. And so you have to practice what you preach. You want unity, then please show that you want unity. You can't keep throwing microaggressions and jabs at people and not expect people to get upset about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I don't see AOC upset, and I think they better get over this to win the general.
Yeah.
To win the White House next year.
On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.